You know, for decades, Democrats and Republicans had a general consensus of what America should look like on big issues. I mean, generally a free market, limited immigration, containing the Soviet Union and its proxies, defending Israel as a bulwark in the Middle East, supporting the U.S. Constitution. Of course, they disagreed on details, but it was more a question of a degree than on fundamentals. By the way, that's a criticism of Republicans as much as anything. So many Republicans accepted Democrat ideas of big government, but just a little bit of a slower implementation of it. But I really think that kind of thinking is dated now. I don't think that's what America's like in 2026, partly because we're now at a full generation of wokeism, having taken children from grade 1 through to grade 12, through to university, through to a master's degree, a full lifetime of indoctrination. So it used to be mainly in universities, is now wherever grown-ups are, in the courts, in the media, in institutional businesses, and of course in politics. And add to that mass immigration, and you've got a powerful coalition on the left that is winning. I mean, Zoran Mamdani's win in New York City is an obvious example. And he's just, you saw the other day, his proposal for government-run grocery stores like they had in the Soviet Union. He's promoting third worldism and threatening to arrest the Israeli prime minister when he next lands in New York. He's gone radical. And I promise you, he is not even the craziest one of them. It's all across America. I mean, just this week, Abdul El Sayed won the Democratic primary in Michigan for the U.S. Senate. He is so radical, he refused to say he agrees with the killing of Iran's radical Ayatollah because he doesn't want to upset his base.
20 weeks ago, when Iran's supreme leader was killed, you told your staff, according to audio obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, quote, "There are a lot of people in Dearborn who are sad today, so like I just don't want to comment on Khamenei at all," unquote. I thought that quote was interesting because the Ayatollah has killed tens of thousands of innocent Iranians, not to mention the proxies that Iran has funded that have killed innocent civilians all over the Middle East. Why were you worried about offending people who support the Ayatollah?
Jake, on a day where we're mourning the loss of 2 more service members in a war we never should have fought, I think all of us ought to step back and ask whether or not everybody in Michigan, frankly, everybody in America, shouldn't be sad about the fact that this president, backed by the prime minister of a foreign government, took us to a war we had no business fighting in. So yeah, I didn't want to comment on it then because it's a ridiculous pretext. And now you're asking me about the Ayatollah, who's dead, by the way, and you're not asking me about the service members who've died. You're not asking me about whether or not this war should have ever been fought. You're not asking me about whether or not the costs that are being borne by Michiganders in the tax dollars we pay or the gas prices that are insane right now are worth it. And so, look, let's have a conversation based in Michigan. I'm running for Senate in Michigan. And I think here in Michigan, all of us are probably sad about the fact that we went to war that we never should have fought. I'd rather our money be spent here.
I was specifically asking you about comments you didn't want to make because you didn't want to offend people in Dearborn, which is in Michigan.
He's all the way out there. He made his campaign largely about Jews in Israel, and he still is doing that. He's pretty fundamentalist. His wife wears a hijab, even more radical than Mamdani's wife, who doesn't. El Sayed talks a lot about Sharia law.
But I was reminded, actually, about events that I remember because I was an adult when they happened. And that was question 755. When the state of Oklahoma voted in a referendum to amend the Constitution to ban Sharia law. What does that mean? I don't know. And yet the voters banned it anyway. What I offer today is just a reflection on the American history that runs through this state. You all sitting in this room, in this town, we're sitting in a space, in a time when I don't have to tell you that the same exact forces that drove native peoples from their land 2 centuries ago, destroyed Black Wall Street a century ago, bombed a building decades ago, and tried to ban Sharia law not a decade ago, that those forces are alive and well today.
He's talked about how Muslims hate America.
You think about all the wars that we fight abroad, all of the sordid history of oppressing other people in the name of this American idea, right? Whether it was, quote, manifest destiny and destroying Native Americans, or it was the transatlantic slave trade, where, you know, folks who, quote, founded this country on the backs of Native folks that they destroyed, then captured people, enslaved them, and had them work their fields because they thought it was their right.
It's sort of nuts. Even while in a campaign mode to be Michigan's next senator, in his own PR video, he talks about how he goes to this sort of lovely place in Michigan that's sort of touristy and sort of white, to be honest, and he says he hates it.
Please watch your step.
I hate Mackinac so much. It's funny because, like, if we win, this is going to be the, like, summer home. I'm just going to be like, every time I've ever come here, I've hated it. Why am I here?
You're not supposed to say you hate any part of your state. You're supposed to love it. He's not a fan of football either. I don't know how you can say that in Michigan. He says football has too much toxic masculinity.
Football is very much associated with a, you know, particularly masculine and oftentimes toxically masculine culture.
Yeah, I think making your wife wear a hijab is probably a little bit more toxic masculinity than football is, but what do I know? He has a ton of radical comments, but he's launched something I'm calling his jester tour, where he dances around like an immature teenager. Really weird. A lot of people online are calling it gay, but he's obviously not gay, and I don't think he's immature. He's using that outward feeling now to hide who he really is. Here, just watch this for 1 second. This is a fundamentalist Muslim who won't condemn 9/11, who won't condemn the Ayatollahs, who wants Sharia law. Why would he do this? Take a look. He's singing girlish songs and dancing a little bit sexually and childishly, but also harmlessly and unseriously, because he is serious as a heart attack. He is very grown up in his commitment to his values, but he wants you to write him off as a harmless laugh, just like you and me, but with a more unusual name. Don't buy into this new layer of propaganda of him doing the karaoke dances. So that's El Sayed. And he and Mamdani have an interesting phenomenon. Both are supported by wealthy, white, liberal women. You saw them in the background of the music number there. I call it the I'm mad at my dad demographic. You'd be surprised how many supporters of Mamdani are actually wealthy, trust fund liberals who haven't worked a day in their whole lives, even though they ostentatiously identify as working class. We have these people in Canada too, mainly in the NDP, but they're usually just harmless. I mean, Jagmeet Singh, I believe, was deliberately harmless. He tanked the NDP strategically so it wouldn't split the left away from Trudeau. Singh was probably the single worst leader of the NDP in its history, and I think deliberately so. And at the same time, the single most important liberal asset over the same period. What's so interesting about his successor, Avi Lewis, also a millionaire, is that Lewis is smart and he's a policy wonk. I don't think Jagmeet Singh ever actually read a briefing note. I can't think of a consequential thing Jagmeet Singh has ever said. Can you remember anything, a speech, a bill, an idea at all, anything? I can't think of one. But imagine if the NDP were to actually get power. That's what's happening with the DSA, this radical wing of the Democrats. The Democrats have internalized the DSA. They've absorbed them, and they're getting just insane candidates. Like this lovely woman who is literally leading the polls for the Democratic primary in Wisconsin. Her name is Francesca Hong. And here she is talking about how she is against whiteness, even though her own husband is white.
I wasn't always aware of the struggles of other communities of color, because for me, assimilation always kind of took over. And so I did marry. My proximity to whiteness continues, right? My son is biracial. He's half white and half Korean, and I think navigating, what his identity is and how people perceive him is always at the back of my mind as well.
Now, if you're anti-white, don't go to Wisconsin. There's lots of white people there. Don't go to America, really, if you don't like white people. Why not stay in the country from which your family came if you hate the sight of white people? She was a restaurateur. Good for her. She actually did something. That's her working class credentials. But get a load of this.
That is in the service industry. We are finally having this conversation about, how our industry really did come from it, and kind of is rooted in white supremacy. That tipping in itself, if we look at the history of tipping and how racist it is and how it has kept wages low for Black people for a very long time. And if you look at tipping now, how different the scales are in terms of who receives higher percentages of tips over other folks.
Yeah, not everything is racist. And you don't have to hate Americana, like football, like Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is also a time that's incredibly painful for many people in our communities.
My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, because I
There
love
you have it.
Thanksgiving. Yep. I don't want to cancel it. I actually love it.
She believes these things, but she can tell that when she's not on a Zoom hangout with 20 radical friends, a lot of severely normal people in Wisconsin are starting to think, who is this radical?
You once tweeted about defunding the police, and tonight you were asked whether you would sign that bill to defund the police, and you said no.
If anyone's been defunding the police, it's been Robin Voss and the Republicans, who have not been adequately funding shared revenue. And you have seen that local governments have had to make very difficult decisions. And I believe that as governor, that we want to make sure that we're prioritizing public safety. And I believe that those types of bills that could include more investment in the things that we know prevent crime. If you want to be tough on crime, you better be tough on the causes.
Here's a compilation.
Even yesterday, it looks like you will be the nominee, as another one of your closest competitors, who is even far behind you, has dropped out of the race. Is there anything in that list of what you told Hassan Piker that you disavow now?
No.
Okay. Is there anything in the DSA platform that you disagree with?
Yes.
Okay. What would that be?
Abolishing the Senate. I believe it's nonsensical and non-practical at this time.
Okay. Would you abolish the Supreme Court?
No.
And
I believe in checks and balances.
Okay. So you consider yourself a Democratic Socialist, is that correct?
Yes.
Would you defund the Department of War?
Define it?
Well,
I think it's
take away the money from the Defense Department?
No, I think it's troubling how many times they've failed an audit, and they're one of the highest funded agency. And I think that stewardship of taxpayer dollars is incredibly important, that where there may be fraud, waste, or abuse, that we make sure to vet the agency.
Okay. Would you advocate for public ownership of America's largest corporations, or those in Wisconsin?
I have to say, first of all, we are incredibly proud of our Green Bay Packers, a publicly owned NFL team. But I believe there are some manufacturing and corporation that is irresponsible to have full public control.
So these are DSA candidates, Democratic Socialists of America. It's not its own political party. It's like a pressure group within another party. It's like a parasite hooked onto a main thing. In this case, the Democrats. These radicals don't need to mess around with the Green Party anymore. They're going for the big time now, and they're winning. They are not watering down their message. That's what's shocking. They're making the rest of the Democrats bend the knee to them. Here's Francis Gill from the DSA in Los Angeles saying, the most important thing we can do is take America down from within. Like that would be a conspiracy theory if someone on the right claimed that about Francis Gill. She's saying it out loud.
And, you know, we have a unique responsibility to act from the heart of empire, the belly of the beast. The most important thing that we can do is take that empire down from within.
They mean it in every way. They mean it symbolically and morally, but they would try to unplug America if they had the chance. Get rid of the president, the Supreme Court, get rid of all of it.
This is actually something that we committed to at convention, having our endorsed candidates supporting the program. It's a requirement now. And so that'll be incorporated into our endorsement process.
It sounds so radical, like abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court, like et cetera, but it's not. Like those are the things that need to happen.
So whenever people are like, oh my God, they want to get rid of the president, I was like, well, I don't know what we would call it in the future. We could call it the head honcho of whatever, you know, like it's like we might not have a president.
If you're in the DSA and you want their support, you've got to agree with this. You've got to agree with this fundamental taking down of America if you want to be in the DSA, if you want their support, and they seem to be winning a lot on the ground. You just have to say it. That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue on the news of the day. I interview an interesting newsmaker, and then I read my fan mail or hate mail, whichever it is. But you can only get it by subscribing to what we call Rebel News Plus. In addition to my show, we've got other shows too, like my friend Sheila Gunn Reid. Get it all at rebelnewsplus.com.